Welcome to the Dr. Reilly Show. I'm your host, Dr. Reilly. Hello, families, and welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Reilly. My name is Dr. Anissa Reilly, and I'm part of the OSG Network. Yes. So, have you ever wondered about sexual trauma? Has it ever occurred in your family? And you may have asked, how, when, where, or more specifically, where was I? Well, I've had those same questions. And today my baby cousin here is here to help us answer those questions. So, we're going to ask Dr. Reilly why, when, and where. So as I said, my baby cousin is here. She experienced sexual trauma. I love her dearly, and I've always wondered, how could that have happened? And I want to thank you for coming today, Tiffany, to let us know exactly what you experienced and to help answer those questions that some family members may have. So, Tiffany Chalmers, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm honored because you're my baby and I love you. And so for you to sit here and share with not only me but the world is such a privilege. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, how do you define sexual trauma?
I define sexual trauma as an emotional roller coaster because of the fact that of the different feelings, mixed feelings I had going through it. I didn't know whether it was right, if it was wrong, if it was supposed to happen to me, am I supposed to let it happen to me? It was just so many different questions, so many different emotions at that time. So it was really hard for me to understand it at that time.
You are, what you're feeling, let me say it that way, is not uncommon. A lot of women think that it was, should I like it? Was I not supposed to like it? Did I do something to deserve it? So saying it was an emotional roller coaster is such a great way of explaining what somebody may be going through or how they experience sexual trauma.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, can you take us back to the very first time you found yourself in a situation where you were like, is this supposed to happen? Well, what is happening?
Okay. The first time it actually happened to me, I was 7 years old. A family member of mine woke me up out of my sleep as I slept on the couch. I can remember to this day what I was wearing. White shirt, yellow shorts, sleeping on the couch during summer. And I felt my clothes being removed. And when I woke up, he's telling me to be quiet. So as it was going on and everything was happening, I'm crying, not knowing exactly what's happening to me. Like, why is this happening to me? No one's coming to help me because I felt like I'm young. I'm always supposed to be protecting the person that's doing it to me was supposed to protect me. But it said he was taking advantage of me. But I didn't know at that time.
Let me pause you right there. So, because I want everyone to get a very clear understanding of what you are describing. So you said you were sleeping on the couch. So were you at another family member's home or were you in your own home?
I was
sleeping on your own couch with your mother.
Yeah.
Right in.
I was sleeping on my mom's couch in my own home. My mother was at my best friend at the time, her house with her mother. We all had very good communications and good friendship. And my sisters was in the next room. And it was my older brother that is the one that
take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
It was my older brother that
committed this act.
Yes. And it's hard for me to say because you're not expecting it to be your brother. The person that's supposed to protect his sisters. You know, he's supposed to be fighting off everyone else that is trying to do these things to you. But it turns out he's the one that's doing it to me. And I'm only 7. And at the time, I think he was 16.
Yeah.
So it was really hard until my sisters came and they caught him. So I'm like, yes, Calvary. You know, here comes the Savior, you know, and they ran and got my mom. My mom come downstairs. I'm like, yes, I'm going to be saved. I'm going to be saved. But instead, He runs out, and I get beat. I get beat until my head get busted open on the counter. And I'm like, okay, so what he did...
Let me pause you right there, because that right there was a lot in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So let's take it step by step. If you want to drink some water, you can drink some water.
Nah.
Because this is heavy. So you just explained a whole lot in like 2 seconds. So your older brother, who's 16 years old, is supposed to be watching you all while your mother is engaging in what parents do, having fun with their friends, because parents are people.
Yeah.
And so, as a lot of parents do, we leave them in the homes with the older siblings, trusting that the older siblings are responsible enough to take care of their younger siblings. And so I'm sure your mother, whom I love dearly, had no idea that this was something that was going to occur.
Yeah.
My aunt, I'm sure she didn't think this was going to occur. And so, unfortunately, like so many other women and in so many other families, the abuser is a sibling. And so when you say that you were sleeping, and let me know if you are willing, just to kind of give us a picture of when you say you felt your clothes come off, you felt your shirt, you felt your shorts. Like, do you mind if you are willing to share?
At first, I felt someone climbing over me. I was laying on my stomach, and next I felt my shorts going down, and then my underwear going down, and then my legs are being spread open.
So he was on your back?
Yes, he was on my
back.
He was on my back.
So we have so I want you to capture this picture. We have a 16-year-old man, and describe the build of your brother, because I know him very well.
He is very muscular, very
He's
stocky.
a football player.
Yes, he's
Call
really
it what
stocky.
it is.
He
has
looks
a
like a
football
grown
build.
man at that
At
age.
16 years old, her brother had a football build, and my cousin was 7, and a very frail 7-year-old.
Yes, and it felt like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe at that time, because I'm like, I'm distraught on what's happening, but I'm also in pain at the same time.
Let me stop you there, because you just used a phrase that has become such a magnanimous phrase in our society today. You couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
So we hear we can't breathe. We hear I can't breathe. And now we're bringing into sexual trauma. I can't breathe. And so those 3 words are synonymous, it seems, these days with trauma and loss and crying out for help. We hear it with George Floyd. We heard it with Eric Gardner. We see it on T-shirts in society. And now we hear it again from a young woman who was 7, who said, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
So talk about your relationship with your brother, because I think it's only right that we share what it was, and you can explain the dynamics with your brothers, your sister, and you.
Wow.
Well, let's start here. Where's your place in the relationship out of the siblings? Are you the oldest, the youngest, the middle?
I am the 4th to the last child.
Fourth to the last child.
5 kids.
So 4 out of 5 children. You were number 4, but at this time,
I was the last child.
you were the baby. At this time, you were the baby.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the father figure, where was your father?
My father at that time, he was in prison.
Right. And do you all have the same father?
No, we all have different fathers.
Right. So at this time, it was 4 children, 4 different fathers, and your father, who is my uncle, was in prison at the time.
Yes.
So now we know that the relationship was you were the baby. none of you have the same father, and you have a big brother who is in the home. So talk about that relationship with your brother.
At that time, because the relationship is so different now. So at that time, it was like he's the oldest. You listen to whatever he say you're supposed to do. You follow his instructions. If mom is not home, that is the adult in the house. So you do as he say, and if you don't do as he say, you will be reprimanded for it.
Look, I want to show you something that's really cool. You could touch it, it's okay. Every incident is as if he got bolder and bolder until one day he was bold enough to take my virginity. Afterwards, it was as if nothing had happened. She kept asking me the same question over and over. Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't a fantasy? Maybe you were dreaming. My mother was my only witness. She could have made up for all those years that I had lost. This is her time to stick up for me and to really fight for me, and she didn't. Me and my mother no longer have a relationship. That's why Rain plays such a huge part in my life, because I get to share my story and I get to empower other people. So every time I talk about it, it's like chipping away at the stone of me healing. Start the conversation, start talking.
Glad you said that, because a lot of older brothers are the man, or even it doesn't even have to be the older brother. The son is the man of the household, especially when there is a father or a man that is absent. The brother becomes the man of the household, and if that is the way in which the family dynamics is, then that can lead to such situations as these. Doesn't apply to all situations, but there is a possibility, because we have a 7-year-old who was instructed to follow what her older brother said. So now, did you feel that he loved you, liked you? Did he protect you? Did you feel like, that's my big brother?
I was always taught not to dislike my family, to always listen and respect my family, because that's my family. You only get one, and that your family will never hurt you. Now, that's what I was always told. And so I have love for my family regardless. I'm a very family-oriented person. So me disliking them was hard on me. Me hating them for what they did or what they do is hard on me. So I had love for my brother. I had so much love for my brother and my sisters, even though they did me no wrong on so many occasions.
So you said had. Is that had or you still have?
To be with the honesty, I tolerate him. I don't love him. I don't love him.
So we can get a better understanding of why. Let's take us to that night. So you started off by stopping and saying that you felt this football-sized man-child on your back. And you felt him pulling down your shorts. And so you can continue when you're ready.
So I felt him pulling down my shorts, and I immediately woke up because I'm like, this ain't right. Something's not right. But then he lays on me and tells me to be quiet.
Does he whisper it in your ear? Does he say it out loud?
No, he says it softly because my sister's in the next room. And
take a breath.
So as he's pulling down and he gets my pants off, he tells me to be quiet. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to listen to what he's saying, not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And as I'm listening to him, and in my back of my mind, I'm like, why am I listening? Why am I not screaming? So...
And I'm going to stop you there, because just to, I think, the brain, the science tells us, that when we're in traumatic situations or we're facing crisis, there's either the fight, flight, or freeze mentality that happens. But for some reason, when women experience sexual trauma, fight, flight, or freeze doesn't apply. Society thinks that we should automatically fight. But this was a crisis, trauma. And let's take a break, and then we'll come back.
Problems. Gotta have the ability to untie knots. See, some people hear about problems and they panic, they get scared. That's not boss. We superheroes over here. We the black guns. When you tell us problems, we go, line them up, we shut them down. Line them up, we shut them down. Line up.
Come with us as we journey off school grounds. It's important that you all realize that I'm not saying anything that some of the most popular and most, the biggest celebrities in the country aren't saying. But I want you all to know that you all control the narrative about the community in which you all reside and the communities in which you all work.
As you were describing, while he was on your back, he said, don't move. What, did he whisper? Did he say it out loud?
No, he was whispering because my sisters were next door in the next room.
Okay, so now he's on top of your 7-year-old frail body. He's just explained to you or commanded you or instructed you not to move. What happens next?
So he basically spread my legs apart from behind and laid on top of me, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. And that's when I felt like, in my head, I'm like, should I scream? But I was told, no, don't do anything, because you're supposed to listen to what he says. Mommy's not in the house, so he's in charge. And that's when I felt the most excruciating pain ever. And I was crying. So when I started crying, that's when he covers my mouth.
Okay, so let's pause. So we're clear. When you say excruciating pain, where were you hurting? Was it in your legs? Was it in your back?
No.
Or was it in your vagina?
It was definitely in my vagina. As we called it back then, it was our private area.
Okay, so you were taught to call it the private area.
Yeah.
So in your private area, you felt pain.
Yeah.
Excruciating pain.
Because I don't know who can take that at that age. And
so what do you think was happening? If you could describe it from a 7-year-old's perspective, what would you say was happening?
It felt like I was being cut so deep. Mm. Like I was being ripped. Mm. And it was forced pressure as it was ripping. Mm. Not like how you do a piece of paper, but something you have to put so much force and strength on just to rip it open or rip it apart. I felt my body become numb, but I felt everything. I felt as if my heat was radiating all over my skin. And all I can do was cry. And when my cries became loud, that's when my mouth get covered.
So in the moment where you felt the pressure, the ripping, the tearing, and the heat is probably your nervous system reacting, and the nerves probably came through in a cry and a scream. The only way a 7-year-old knows how to, he then takes his hand, his man hand, and puts it over your mouth.
Yes.
So not only is he on your back and you can't breathe, and you feel like you can't breathe, he now has his hand over your mouth to muffle your scream and to stop you from breathing properly.
Yes.
So that act right there lets me know that he had an awareness that it was wrong. That lets me know. And so when we speak to individuals who commit such acts and they give reasons such as, well, I didn't know, or I thought they wanted it, then if you thought if the victim wanted it, why would you have the need to cover their mouth? Why would you feel the need to silence the scream? So if you felt the person wanted it, then there will be no need to silence them. So now he has penetrated, because we're going to call it like it is, a 7-year-old, a 16-year-old man-child. And I keep saying that because I need you to understand the picture, audience. It was a 16-year-old football-sized man-child on a 7-year-old penetrating her. So we can imagine what his anatomy looked like, and we can imagine what her anatomy looked like. And so now he has penetrated, and she feels the pain, and you feel the pain. So did he stop?
No, he didn't stop right away. It's when my sisters came. That's when he stopped.
So would you be able to kind of say, was it he penetrated 1 time, 2 times, or it was too many for your 7-year-old mind to count?
It felt very long. Felt very long. It felt like a long time for somebody to come out there to see what was happening to me.
So whether it was 1 second, 2 seconds, a millisecond, that's too long. But for a 7-year-old, whether it was 2 seconds, it probably felt like 2 years. So now your sisters came out, and
so my sisters came out. My oldest.
How many?
2. Mm-hmm. There's 3 girls at the time, so I'm the youngest girl. Both of my sisters came out, and my oldest one, she started screaming, while the middle one ran upstairs to get my mother. And I don't know what she said to my mother, but he was like, put your clothes on, put your clothes on, start throwing my clothes at me. And I'm sitting there crying, I'm hurt, bleeding and everything. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's just like, what was y'all doing? What was y'all doing? Not, what was you doing? What were y'all doing? What was you both doing?
Who said that?
My oldest sister. Like, I consented to him doing this. Like, it was a mutual act. So I'm sitting there screaming like I didn't do anything. So when my mother came downstairs, my sister was like, they were doing this. And he ran out the house. My mother came back and decided that she wanted to whoop me and reprimand me for what he did. At first, my initial thought was, he did something to me. I'm bleeding down there. I'm hurting. You're supposed to be there to console me. But instead, I'm getting whooped. I'm the one being beat. And I'm not being hit like, you know, you was wrong. No, I'm being whooped like my life is about to end. And I guess she didn't know how carried away she was getting, because my head hit the counter, the edge of the counter. And next thing you know, I'm bleeding from 2 places now. Mm-hmm. I'm bleeding from the top of my head and between my legs. And I'm screaming, crying. I didn't do nothing. That's when I felt my voice was silenced. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't tell you anything, because if I tell you something, am I going to get the same treatment I just got? So I didn't know what he was doing was right, or for me allowing him to do it was wrong. So that was the worst feeling ever, and then I didn't know how to explain it.
And audience, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
principals, even though they're knowing everything, they really want to change it. They see these principals don't want to fit in. They really want to help the kids, and they know what's wrong with the system. And they're like, yo, if the system won't help the kids, then we will. You know? And they're providing the real education, despite the one that's just given within the school rules. They take care of these children, and they also worried about what goes on when they're not in school. You know, they understand that school is a safe place for some of those kids. So they make sure they provide that comfort for them as well. So, you know, Dennis, Lays, Dr. Action, who, just when I was like, yo, you're brilliant, you needed to do a TV show. She did 6 episodes a week later. The set was being run better than mine.
So you just said something so profound when you said that's when your voice was silenced. And I'm sure many individuals who suffer or are in the same situations believe that their voice is silenced at that moment, that they can't tell their mom, they can't tell anyone, especially if it's your parent. But what I do want to offer you and offer the audience today is that, as you can see, you haven't been silenced. You're able to speak it and heal. Hopefully that this is allowing you to heal. One thing I do want to share for individuals that I've been speaking with that have experienced some form of sexual trauma, some of the things that have been common in their healing process is they've written to their abuser. Right?
Yeah.
I see it in your face.
I can't relate. I took a different approach.
Okay.
Because it continued on from 7 to the age of 15. So it wasn't just that one time with the same person. It lasted a long time. So it went from me being quiet and applying myself to what he wanted me to do, and till me fighting. I fought. He beat me up plenty of times, but I still fought. I'm going to fight you off of me one way or another. You still win, but I'm still fighting. That's when I started feeling that I had some type of confidence that I can get out of this. You know, so I've never written anything to him. I learned how to scream and shout at him and throw my fist up at him to let him know, like, this is not going to happen. This is not supposed to happen. This is not going to happen ever again. You know, so I don't know how it feels to write to him about how I feel. I think he kind of understand how I feel because of all the fights that we had. And it's not normal brother, sister, sibling type fights. No, it was more like, you're a predator and you took my innocence and I'm fighting for it back. So I don't want to write him. I'm a bit out. I don't want to write him. I don't want to write him at all.
So that was one approach. So let's go back to the fighting, because fighting for that person may have been a letter. You know, that's like, 'cause, you know, some people, we fight in some arenas and we're like, we're going to write to our senator. That's how I'm going to fight. I'm going to march on Washington. That's how I'm going to fight. But what did fighting for you look like? Because fighting for everyone looks different. So just paint a picture for those of us who may, like you, say, I'm not writing him. Or those of us who say, I'm not marching. But what did it look like for you?
Fighting for me was me understanding and knowing that it's not my fault. It wasn't my fault, and I shouldn't put all the blame on me, you know, and realizing that I do have a voice, whether they like it or not.
That's right.
I'm going to speak.
Yes.
So a lot of people say I'm challenging because I don't allow people to take advantage of me in any kind of way. But I look at it as, this is who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. And because what happened to me in the past, that doesn't define me. It made me understand and believe what I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to be to other people.
I like the way you said people calling you challenging, because they like to give those words to women who are assertive, who understand their voice, and who are not afraid to speak their truth in a way that's respectful. You know, I like to describe it, you know, for me, I would say straight talk. Straight talk leads to straight understanding. So when I speak to you in a straight, clear manner, when you leave me, you are very clear about what we just discussed. There's no room for ambiguity. You're not going to leave wondering what I was saying. And for some people, we do become challenging or bossy, or, you know,
ratchet.
Or ratchet. No, you could be ratchet. Yeah, there's ratchet. Yeah, when some people call you ratchet. But, and I think sometimes we begin that with little children at 7 who are very assertive with their voice. We call them bossy.
Yeah.
Or you just, you know, calm down, but no. So I'm glad that you found your voice, and I'm glad that you learned that your voice spoke volumes. And so we have fighting, like I said, somebody wrote, somebody marches, and you speak and you say your truth. So in this finding yourself, right?
Yes.
Something just wonderful happened in your life.
Yes, I graduated with my master's in education.
Woo woo! Woo woo! So you got your master's?
Yes, I definitely got my master's. Because when I went through this trauma, school wasn't for me. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I couldn't read and write until I was 15. Mm-hmm. You know, so it took a real big toll on me, because I had to climb out of a dark hole where I thought it was no light. You know,
and I'm glad you talked about that, because science talks about what trauma does to a brain, and you have this point where your brain focuses on keeping your body in survival mode, that it trumps the ability to learn information. And so when children come to school who have experienced significant amounts of trauma, then they're not able to learn. And sometimes they're labeled ADD, ADHD, they need medication, they need special education, they have dyslexia, learning disabilities.
With me, it was, what they said to me is no use, you're hopeless. That's what my teacher said to me. It was, you're hopeless, it's no use for you. Learn a trade.
Wow.
Learn a trade. And I had one teacher that was like, no, you're going to learn to read. You're going to learn to write. Mm-hmm. And she brought me to educational freedom.
Okay. Why? Why?
Well, with her, it's like, okay, with me, I didn't think it was no hope for me either at that time. You know, I was just learning how to defend myself. Because even at school, my whole mind frame is, I'm going to get you before you get me. You know, so I'm automatically on edge to see who's trying to come for me. Even if you look at me wrong, I feel like you're coming for me. Let me make sure I protect myself before it ends up to that. And that, I guess that's when the fighting comes in. I became a very, very
guarded,
yes,
defensive.
Yes, very.
But understandable, because the person who was supposed to protect you and keep you violated that space. So now you've learned how to, I need to take care of myself.
Become my own protector. Become my own protector. But when I went back to school, I ended up in group homes. Let's put it out there. My life turned for the worst of everything. I ended up in group homes, and my last residential treatment center I went to, there was one teacher. I love this woman to the death. She literally was like, I'm going to take the time to do this with you. What do you want out of your life? Yeah, we know all this happens, but how are you going to take it back?
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you said that. Well, big shout out to those educators who love us,
yes,
who are there and doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. But I want to stop you right there and just capture that. Yes, that happened to you, but now what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
And that's why you're here today. That's why you're here today.
Yes.
Because there's a whole bunch of women out there, a whole bunch of young ladies, a whole bunch of people out there who need to hear that, yes, this happened to you, but what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So you got your master's in education. Why education?
Because I fell in love with reading. I fell in love with learning. I'm a geek. I'm a geek at heart. I'm a geek.
And you're a pretty geek because you're my cousins. I can say that. I can say that. You're a pretty geek.
But
beauty and brains.
When in the beginning, they would say I was exceptional. They couldn't believe it. Script writing, all that. I was really into school. When that happened, everything dropped. Going back into it, I found my love for learning, and that's why I call it my educational freedom, because it released me into a different world. Instead of focusing and dwelling on what it was or what had happened, I'm looking more towards what is and what is going to be my future.
So what is going to be your future, Miss Tiffany?
Right now, I'm currently an educator. I teach 3K to kindergarten. I'm basically trying to work with them around the age that my stuff happens, so I can be their guiding foundation, start laying down that foundation to let them know that no matter what it is that you're going through, I wish my teachers did this for me back then, but you have somebody that's there that can relate to you, you know, and I just mentor to the kids around my old neighborhood, talk to them about it, because I know a lot of young teenagers that have been through it too, that don't feel like they have a voice. And I scream as loud as I can, like, you hear my voice? Now use yours.
So I'm glad you let the audience know that you mentor. If there's any young women out there that would love to contact you, reach out to you, is there a number that you can give them, or not a number, because you know you don't want to give everybody your cell number, right? But is there an email address or your Instagram, your social media information that they can reach out to you?
Okay, so my email address, I like emails, I like to read.
Okay, so say it right to that camera right there.
So my email address is tcchalmers@yahoo.com or Tiffany_Chalmers@yahoo.com. My Instagram is Resilient Strong.
Boom. Boom.
Resilient Strong. And you can also look me up on Facebook under Tiffany Chalmers. So, yeah. But can I give a message?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Is there one last word you want to give? You look right to that camera.
Okay. To all those out there that has experienced these type of traumas, especially when it comes to sexual trauma, it is not your fault. Some people don't understand what you are going through because they possibly went through it themselves and never healed. You can still continue to fight. There's others out there that are like you. You have a voice. Use it. You continue to use it as much as you can. Even though you feel like no one's listening, no one can hear you, trust me, somebody's listening.
And with that, I would like to say, for those of you who would like to learn how to use your voice, we'll put some information on the screen about various organizations that will help you develop your voice, as well as who you can talk to if you've experienced sexual trauma. And with that, I want to tell you that I love you. I appreciate you tuning in. And don't forget, Ask Dr. Reilly. Peace. Welcome to the Dr. Reilly Show.
We only have 4 episodes left of season 1 of the Ask Dr. Reilly Show. So stay tuned and locked in, because the best is yet to come.
I'm your host, Dr. Anissa Reilly.